Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with the juicy story of how our OP bankrupted his boss who set him up badly. I used to work for a large retail company that sells electronics. We'll call them Shimry's Shmelectronics. Sure. And seriously, if you work for them, I'm sorry. And I recommend you find a new job that'll actually get you somewhere in life. Anyway, if you don't know how it works at Shimry's, if you're a salesperson, more specifically in the audio-video department, you're paid one of two ways. You're either paid in commission, so long as your sales equal enough to make it to minimum wage pay rates, or if you cannot make enough sales to reach minimum wage rates, you're cushioned by being paid minimum wage exactly. To explain a little nicer, say minimum wage is $300 for 1 week of work, but I ended up making $600 in sales. Well, that's all fine and well. I'd get paid $600, but then say the next week I didn't make that much and only did $250 in sales. Well, they just pay me $300 instead. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, that seems nice. What's the problem with that? The problem was, at least in my case back in the day when I used to work for them, if your sales didn't get above the minimum wage for 3 weeks in a row, you were immediately terminated. This means slow months when there were no holidays or big doorbuster sales were a teeth grinder. You would be checking your sales report every 5 minutes to make sure you at least had a penny over what you needed to be safe for the next few weeks. I was generally all right with my sales, but the management in this place, or at the very least the supervisors, were big effing a-holes. They were also paid differently. A supervisor was paid an hourly wage, well above the minimum, mind you, and they had commission stacked with their hourly wage. So as you can expect, there were a lot of sales snipers and stolen sales by our supervisors. A sales sniper is what my coworkers and I called it when a supervisor would target and lock on anyone who was dressed a little bit nicer and rush over to them as fast as possible to try and force them into a sale. Now that we're caught up, this is where my story starts. I had a supervisor who was in all ways the worst human being in the history of ever. Okay, there was Stalin and Hitler, but he's maybe top 10 then? Anyway, to give context on the kind of emotional and mental trauma he gave me, one day I came into work on Veterans Day, and my grandfather was in the 8th Air Force Division in World War II. In honor of him, I had one of his 8th Air Division ties, since he passed away about 10 years ago prior to these events. Admittedly, it was a little small on me, but I still thought it made me look clean and respectable. Other veterans who came to the store complimented me and congratulated me for my grandpa's service. But then my supervisor sees it. We'll call him D. D. Yo, what's up with your tie? Me. Oh, it was my grandfather's. He was an Air Force combat gunner in the 8th Division Air Force during World War II. D. Geez, I'd feel sorry for anyone who saw him wearing that thing. It looks ridiculous. If I had a kid, I wouldn't let him wear it. I felt my face grow red, and I glared at him with the most hateful glare I've ever given anyone. I simply said, "You are the most disgusting person I've ever met," and walked off to do something mindless to get my mind clear. In any case, this story is about a sale I made with a gentleman who was such a cool guy. We just finalized a sale on his new 75-inch 4K TV, which included the whole works. TV insurance, all the best cables, installation, wall mounts, a full sound system. In other words, commission out the butt. I get all my paperwork finished up and put my papers with all his stuff, so when the delivery team takes it out the following day, I get credit for the sale. This sale would have made me $500 in commission alone. It was a huge deal for me. I had the following day off, so I was ready to relax and enjoy my hard-earned pay. The day I returned to work, I go to check my sales report and see that my sale was not posted in there. My eyes widened and I almost immediately panicked. I rush up to the sales office and ask them to search the record for any sales with a large TV, wall mount, etc., etc. They find it, and they saw it was under D's name. I was furious. I went to the store manager's office and screamed in rage how I wanted this fixed and I wanted my sale back. She told me how payroll was already completed for the week and all sales have been finalized, so it'd be impossible for me to get the commission. I knew it wasn't her fault. I stomped my way back down to my department and handed my name badge and my walkie-talkie to D, and I stared him in the eyes and said, "You will pay for this." I turned to walk out, quitting that effed up job. A few years pass, and I'm now an auditor for a credit company. I shuffle through some clients' papers to see who I need to review the accounts of, and I find Dee's name on one of the papers. My eyes widen and I grin. Not just a normal grin, but the kind of grin the Grinch gave when he devised a disgustingly horrible plan. I looked through his file and saw that he'd filed for a mortgage loan a month previously. It was a huge loan that equaled $350,000, and at the moment it was pre-approved, but pending final review since it was such a huge amount. I smiled as I looked into his file, and I remembered how often he boasted at work how his parents had basically paid for everything up to the point where he was 27. Sad, I know. Well, after I'd finished looking through his estimated earnings, I noticed he failed to mention the part where his parents would be paying for him to live. Because of this, all the things that he listed under his name for financial collateral, his car, his inflated bank account, his credit score that was shot through the roof due to his parents paying all his bills and credit cards, basically anything he could list that could make him look financially stable. After this, I marked all those items as invalid properties for client to submit because lawfully they are the property of his parents and not his. I submitted my report and a little bit later reviewed his files. His credit score went from 800 to a 300, and his file marked him as basically penniless. His loan was resubmitted and denied, and now any loans or credits he tries to submit are now immediately flagged due to his failure to submit proper financial reports. This means that basically he will never be approved for any credit cards, mortgage loans. Hell, even if he wanted an apartment, no landlord would ever approve someone with the new financial profile he had. I single-handedly ruined his chances of ever being able to live anywhere but with someone else as a roommate or on the street. For that reason, I wake up almost every morning with a large grin and a warm cup of coffee, knowing my world is at peace and balance is restored to my universe. And our last story. No changes can be made without the account holder. Family member's spouse was involved in an accident that left them critically injured. They were in ICU for months and would face permanent disability upon returning home. They didn't want to leave their home. It was close to the best hospital in the region, and it was their forever home, so plans began to renovate it for accessibility. In addition to the renovations, a wheelchair van was going to be needed along with other medical equipment for home use. As she worked on all of this, it was clear that large expenditures were going to be needed, and it was going to take time to draw money out of long-term savings and retirement accounts. So she called the credit card companies to get their limit increased. Sadly, before the renovations were complete, her spouse passed away. Now attention turned to final arrangements. The couple had always been very frugal and maintained nearly perfect credit. All cards were being paid on time, and despite carrying a balance on some cards from the construction, demolition had already started, so renovations had to continue, but at a slower pace, money was now coming in from those long-term savings. The problem is one major credit card company refused to work with her. She tried to access the account and was told, "Sorry, I have to speak to the account holder." She explained that her spouse had passed away and she was wanting to pay what was left on the card. She also explained that she was an account holder. Evil Bank stated that she was not on the account, she was a mere card holder, and she had no rights to the account. The person on the phone explained that her husband opened the account without her and just gave her the card. She just didn't understand how credit cards worked. This was a lie. The couple had always been joint account holders on everything since they were first married for exactly this reason. They had done extensive estate planning and made sure that all their assets were protected in trusts, should the worst occur. They knew their kids would be cared for and their partner would be able to access everything. Also, she ran the couple's business for over a decade, navigating a sea of regulations, insurance company billing, and payroll/finances/taxes. Needless to say, she did not enjoy being condescended to. Unfortunately, Evil Bank would not budge. They would not allow any access to the account for any reason, but for some reason they didn't cancel the card after finding out the sole account holder had passed away. This back and forth went on for weeks with multiple calls to the Evil Bank and trying to escalate the issue to supervisors to address the state of the account. In a final attempt to show Evil Bank that they were hurting themselves by this, so I'm unable to access any part of the account, even to make a payment. Evil Bank, that's right. So the account is going to be closed. Evil Bank. No, only the account holder can do that. Even though the account holder is dead. Only the account holder, ma'am. So what does that mean for card holders and being able to charge on the account? Only the account holder can deactivate a card or modify the account. So what happens if a card holder uses their card? They can continue to use the card until the account holder tells us otherwise. The deceased account holder. Yes, I can't help you with anything else. You need to put the account holder on the phone if you want to change anything or make a payment. No, that's fine. She broke down crying immediately after, but decided that they set the rules so she would play by them. All the final expenses, medical bills, and as much construction cost as possible was put onto that credit card. She maxed it out and then let it sit until the credit card company started calling for payment. I'm sorry, per your policy, I'm just the card holder and am not responsible for any balance. Ma'am, this balance needs to be paid or it will affect your credit. It better not, I'm not on the account. This is an illegal collections call, and I will be reporting it to the FTC and the attorneys general in your home state and mine. I still have his number on speed dial. You can make your case to the court. She was used to getting medical insurance companies to pay claims for the last decade or so. You don't want to play hardball with her. Remember how all the assets were in trusts? On paper, her partner had no assets to place a lien on. All the cash in the joint checking account had been used to pay expenses for the past several months, and withdrawals from long-term savings were sent to her account, not the joint account. They had agreed to move all exposed assets shortly after her partner regained consciousness, fearing the worst. Plus, all the income from the business had been brought home in her name for more than a decade, so she would actually get some kind of Social Security payment when she got older. So not only did his estate have no assets to go after, he didn't have an income for the last decade. Evil Bank was left with a maxed-out credit card and no assets in the estate they could file against for payment. The handful of other credit card companies worked with her to raise limits temporarily or remove daily spending caps for large expenditures, and they were all paid without a single missed, late, or partial payment. Evil Bank had to eat a 5-figure loss, all because they decided that the wife didn't deserve to be on the account from day one. She had every intention to pay every bill and expense. She's never been one to try to scam or cheat someone. She gave Evil Bank every chance to accept money for the bill. They repeatedly refused to acknowledge her as a spouse or executor, but she sure liked the irony of the only company that refused to acknowledge the death of her spouse ended up paying for the funeral expenses. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.